Hello, I am super excited to be here with LaShae and talk about her art and all the amazing things that she's been up to. But before we get into it, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lydia. I am the executive director of Wild Goose Creative. Wild Goose Creative is a nonprofit community arts organization, and our mission is to provide space and resources to local artists. So we have been a staple in the Columbus arts community since 2008. And we offer, when we are open, we offer over 320 events a year, connecting arts and audiences in Central Ohio. So we essentially like to think of ourselves as like an incubator space. So people who want to come and do something interesting and creative, like a pop-up show or a fashion show or something like that, they can rent our space at a very discounted rate. And then in addition to that, we have recurring programming that spans many different disciplines. So theater, improv, visual art, essentially all of the above. And one of my favorite programs is obviously our monthly gallery series, which you can see behind me. So I first met LaShae, was it 2018 or 2019 in the
that was 2019. That was last summer.
Last summer, yeah. So the show was called Whatever, Expressionism in Millennial Art Making, and it was curated by Margaret. And this was my first time meeting LaShae, and I just really fell in love with her work and have been following her and her career ever since. And I also one of my favorite parts about this job is just meeting emerging artists that are like doing really cool and awesome things, and that's what LaShae is doing. So LaShae, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi. So my name is LaShae Boyd, and I am an artist based out of Columbus, Ohio. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and I graduated from CCAD, Columbus College of Art and Design, this year. So I am a new grad, and I've just been working ever since, and I'm still growing and learning. But right now, I'm primarily painting, and I hope to do some more like sculptural work in the future. But yeah, it's a little bit about me. Yeah.
I'm in Cleveland.
Cleveland Heights.
I think we talked about this. I am too.
Yeah, I think we did a little bit.
I know, it's so crazy. It's such a small world. So would you like describe your art as kind of pop surreal a bit?
So it's kind of weird because I almost felt like in school, I kind of had to label my work a certain way. So I really kind of just went along with it, the whole pop surrealism thing. At first, I was kind of like doing more of that surrealism work, which I will still say I do still now, but I kind of feel like I do a little bit of contemporary pop, surreal, abstract. I try to do across the board expressionism, whatever I'm really feeling. So it's hard to like put my work in like that one category. So yeah.
So tell me, like, what are some of your earliest memories of being creative?
Literally since I was like 6 or 7, like I would always draw or do like different like performative things around the house. Like I was also like a dancer as well. So I was very involved in like all different kinds of arts as a child. And I think that kind of motivated me to just like utilize my creativity any kind of way. I used to write poems and like stories as a kid too. But I was always drawing as well, just kind of doing all different creative stuff. I was always like doing like drawing or visual, any kind of visual art, painting, whatever it was. And I did go to like an art camp before. And so it was kind of like those like little things that, you know, as a kid, you don't really pay attention to like all the creative things that you do. But when I look back on it, it's like, I was like always involved in the arts. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say the same, like for me too. I feel like Cleveland Heights is a really interesting creative place. There's a lot of art happening there. Like my parents are both professional artists. My father is an art professor, and my mom is a singer, and they created their life in Cleveland as being professional artists. So, my childhood was also filled with art, and like I dabbled a bit in theater, but I realized that like my career path was sort of more on the business side of the arts, like providing opportunities for artists. And so I'm always fascinated to ask artists this question, like, when did you figure out that you wanted this to be your career path? And like, of all of the art that you said you were into, why did you decide painting and visual art?
I don't know. I kind of gravitated more towards the visual arts, and like when I got further into high school, I kind of at this point had a lot of life experiences, and like it was just a lot of emotions of just trying to figure out like your life experiences as a teenager, and like at the same time you're still kind of figuring out everything that's happening in that present moment. And like in high school, I used to I think that was around the time when I was saying I wanted to be an actress. And I don't know what made it change. I think I was taking like an art class, and one of my teachers, she kind of inspired me. I don't know. I think her skills were just so good. And like, I just remember thinking like, I just want to learn how to like draw like really good. And so I kind of just started putting all my focus towards like learning how to shade and just learning how to like start making like the eyeball look real. Like I was very like, trying to hone in on my skill a little bit more. So slowly I started to make it my focus around like 16, 17, all the way up to almost graduation. And so, yeah.
And then you went to CCAD, correct? And you majored in painting or
fine arts, pretty much. Yeah. When I first went, because I actually took a semester off because I still wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But then when I like took that semester off, I was still working on art. So I was like, you know what? I might as well like make it like a real, thing. Like I might as well just take that risk of going to art school, because I really didn't know what art school would be like. I just always thought I would end up at a university or something. But honestly, like I'm happy I did, because like it was like I think I needed that push anyway. But in high school, like I was always drawing people around me, so I felt like I had that practice and I had that confidence by the time I like applied for CCAD, and it just like I don't know, took off from there. But like I was drawing at first. I didn't start painting until like maybe my sophomore year or junior year. Again, I think I kind of was like, I want to do something to challenge me. So because I wasn't painting, I started to gravitating towards that and wanted to learn more about painting and colors and stuff like that. So that's how I started with that. Yeah.
So how much has your style evolved, like from, when you first started at CCAD or even in high school to now, like the art that I see behind you?
Man, it's been like a process. I just remember like painting people all the time. I wanted to like do portraitures. So I was focused on like really like just making figure paintings and making the figures as real as possible. Like I was looking at a lot of like the old masters back then. And I was like kind of just wanting to really just give that realist look. And I think the more I was pushing it, the more frustrated I was starting to feel, just because it was hard. And I felt like I was just really like being hard on myself on trying to hone in a skill that takes like years of like practice. And I'm like kind of already expecting to be like at a certain level. And so I had to ask myself, like, is this something that I really want to like paint? Like, is this something that I really feel is expressing myself? Or is it something that I think I have to do to feel like I'm good or skilled? So making that distinction, I started to realize that I wasn't really saying anything, or like the passion wasn't going through these figure paintings that I was trying to make. It was more like work and like trying to be controlled. And so I just let go of it. And then I just almost like started with a clean slate. I just started like doodling literally in a notebook one day, and it just turned into like more and more different things. And then I started making like all the crazy surrealism stuff, like next thing I knew. So yeah.
So, well, like you said, it seems that the human figure is really an occurring theme throughout your work. Can you like speak to that? And, you know, in the piece behind you, there's figures dancing, which is interesting because like you're also a dancer. So it's kind of like stuff.
I think like the best way to like, I don't know, like a lot of my art is based on my experiences. So I almost feel like I need kind of like the human body to tell the story. Because I just feel like me as a dancer, knowing that movement is telling a story, you can, you know, any gesture, whatever body language, we can read each other from body language. So I kind of pay attention to a lot of that stuff. And I just find it important to be in my work because it just helps kind of express that emotion even more. Because I know like when I watch people dance, like I remember going to see The Lion King in Broadway, and it was like emotional because you're watching this story and they're dancing through the whole like story, but it's almost like it has this more meaningful touch to it because of the gestures and the expression and the passion that's happening on stage. So I guess because I'm just such a passionate person by nature, I just felt like the human body and making these exaggerated gestures of the human body it just really like helps me put it all together and puts my thoughts and creativity like all together. So yeah.
Awesome. So I'm just curious about the piece behind you, the one with the yellow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you like talk a little bit about that piece specifically? And
mm-hmm. Yeah. So this piece I titled The Overseer's House. And my idea behind it was basically like currently I just been going through a spiritual transformation. So like a lot of my work is about spirituality. And, you know, I believe that we go through so many different phases of the human physique, starting from childhood. And as we're like processing life and our personal experiences, like there's a lot of things that are repressed within us. And so it's that journey of going back to our purest self without like all those experiences kind of clouding us down. And like it can cause all of these fears and beliefs and things that we've kind of like conditioned ourselves to believe through those experiences, and finding your way back to yourself and finding your way back to who you were before all that stuff happened. And so it's kind of like I was thinking of like just our different versions of ourselves kind of manifesting throughout the journey. And like there's always kind of like this presence that we can't see, that's beyond the physical eye, that's guiding us. And so kind of like I like to just implement like this, almost like this not overbearing, but this hovering feeling of joy and like clarity and insight. And my figures, like the ghostly figures you see in the back, are kind of like representing that and representing that light that's kind of helping our heart, like, you know, just go, you know. So it's very deep, but
cool.
But yeah.
So like you know, obviously COVID and everything has just been very interesting and different because of that. And I know a lot of artists have responded to COVID in different ways. Like, you know, some feel that they have extra time and they, you know, have passion to do work and to, you know, be creative in this time. And then others just don't.
Yeah.
So how's it been for you? Like what have been some challenges that you've been facing?
It's been tough. Like definitely had some setbacks. I had a lot of plans for this year after, you know, I graduated, and I was actually supposed to go to Italy in April for a residency, and I was going to be gone for the entire month. And that was going to be like my first time ever going to Europe, going to Italy. which is somewhere I've been wanting to go since childhood. So it was like a really big thing for me. And I was raising money, and I paid the deposit and everything. So it was like set in stone. And Italy was actually like one of the first like regions to like break out as big as they did. And so they canceled the trip, and, it was very disappointing. Honestly, I didn't take it as hard as I thought I would. Like, I guess because I just kind of already felt like, this is a situation I obviously can't control. It's out of my hands, and it's actually bigger than me. There's a lot going on. People's lives are at risk. So I kind of just tried to not think so much about like my plans when I knew like in the future the opportunity was going to present itself again. So I didn't want to spend too much time thinking about something that I lost. So I took that moment and I just flipped it into motivation. And I was like, this isn't going to stop me from making work. So I just decided to keep creating work. And like, I just knew like, right now everything's kind of settled down right now because of everything that's happening, but I'm going to utilize my time and like, make sure that I'm working as hard as possible. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a challenge for anyone in the creative realm right now. The arts is so important to the identity of Columbus as a city. I mean, I feel like we're such a unique position because hundreds of artists are living and working here.
Yeah.
And, figuring out like, thanks to organizations like Greater Columbus Arts Council, there have been relief for individual artists, which is so incredible, obviously. But it's definitely like, here at Wild Goose, we're also trying to figure out how can we best serve our artists, how do they, do we want to do a pop-up show that is very tied to what's currently happening? And so that's interesting that you have that perspective. So like how long does it take you to make a piece usually?
Honestly, like this one behind me I made sure I took my time. So I gave myself like a week. It really and honestly, that's actually shorter than usual. I used to like at CCAD, used to take me like 2 months. I don't know if that was just because I was at school though, and I had like all these other stuff going on, like other classes and assignments that I had to do. But ever since like I've created my studio space out of my apartment, like I just kind of roll out of bed and just work. So I've been getting stuff done actually a lot more faster than I was at school. So like now it's like taking me like a week or like 5 days or something like that. But I try to make sure I'm not rushing through my work either. Because I felt like I kind of like gained that habit in school too, just for the sake of meeting deadlines. And I had to kind of get out of that habit of like feeling like I had to like hurry up and like, like rush to finish some work or, put it all together and make a full masterpiece for critique time. Like I had to unlearn all of that. So it's been a nice process that's another thing that COVID kind of helped me do. It gave me that space to like just work without the deadline and the pressure of getting it done at a certain time. So yeah,
that's the nice thing about like getting out of school, because you can actually just like do it on your own time.
Yeah, and you don't have everyone hovering over you like
exactly.
It's just at least personally for me, like it just feels way more better like this. So
would you ever consider pursuing like a master's degree, or what do you see yourself like moving forward? How do you see your career progressing?
It's funny that you asked that because I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about an MFA program that I, feel best suits me. And right now I'm just kind of racking up a list. And as I'm working on building my portfolio, because I did kind of recently change my style up a little bit. So I do want to let that style kind of settle in a little bit more before I start applying to certain programs. I just feel like it's important to just have like that real concrete set body of work to present to people. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But I am like looking at some schools right now, and I've been actually reaching out to like other artists that's been doing these programs and asking their, you know, their opinion on the program that they're on right now and their experience, and just kind of like getting that like guidance from other artists, which has been really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like you are doing such a good job of building a network for yourself here. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, how do you view Columbus? Like, how do you think, you know, how would you describe Columbus and the opportunities or challenges for you as an artist?
I think Columbus is a great space. It's a great growing space. And I feel like it's getting bigger and bigger. And so I feel like the art scene is only getting more bigger and it's thriving even more. And I feel like Columbus has provided me with so many opportunities that I never thought I would have, like from exhibition opportunities, from, you know, getting an article in the local magazine and doing the Columbus Arts Festival. You know, like I had been going to the Columbus Arts Festival for years, and I never thought that I was going to be one of the artists in the festival. And the fact that I achieved that was like so big. So I definitely feel like Columbus has gave me like that support, even just from that one event. Like I met so many people, and it just kept like building up after that. Like, and that was like a year ago. And it's still like kind of still booming, and it's exciting to keep meeting new artists in the city and connecting with them and watching them and doing what they're doing and getting inspired by them. So it's like, it's really dope out here. I'm like really blessed to have started a network in this city. So for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like it's such a great place to start off.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, like I feel like the creative community here is very similar to the entrepreneurial community, because it's still, I mean, the cost of living is still relatively low. There's so many different types of people that live here, so you can really get a feel for like, is the product gonna work, or, you know, is my art, like, can I have a career in this?
Right.
And what I feel is so cool about Columbus is that it's like, it's big enough that you always meet new people. Like I meet new artists every single year. Like I met you last year, and now I've been in your career. And so I like meet all these new people. I'm like, oh, I had no idea that you were doing this work. It's so amazing. But it's also small enough that you still feel a part of something.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that overwhelming feeling of like, oh, you have to compete like New York, where it's like all these like creatives and you almost feel like you have to like compete because you can easily get drowned by all the overwhelming talent out there. So it's crazy. But like here, it's like it's talent, but it's not like it's more like that support of like building. You can build your network here. You can like gain your support here and reach out to other artists and have that connection with other artists, and it's really intimate. So it's very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like there's so much interdisciplinary collaborations that happen here. Like all the local music festivals here, like What Fest and Cloud City, it's not just music, it's art, it's like performance, it's everything. And it's like I find that to be very unique about the city. It's like you can do a collaboration with another artist that's like doing something completely different than you, and then like something totally new is created.
It's dope.
Cool. Yeah,
it's definitely dope. I'm into performance as well. Like I love all the different like forms of art, and I'm actually trying to expand myself to like more mediums and like more different forms of expression. So it's very interesting to like know that there's so many other artists out here that are into so many different kinds of like forms of art that I know, like I can like even just CCAD, like having that introduction of just all the different like artists that you know, they do sculpture, they do woodwork, metalwork, whatever. It was just so inspiring to see all of that. So I always kind of aim to do more than just painting. Right now, it's just like hard because I'm like still like figuring out my space. Like I kind of have to work with the space that I'm in, but it definitely has kind of pushed me to utilize my resources and like just try different things with the materials that I have right now. So yeah.
You're interested in like sculptural work potentially?
Yeah, like I definitely want to start kind of building masks, and because I do a lot of these masks in my painting, so I really want to like make them come to life. I've been actually wanting to do this for like years. Like I don't know why I haven't just jumped into it. I think because I'm just so used to working with paper and this, you know, 2D surface, and so trying to kind of move to more three-dimensional stuff, it's kind of like more thought that I have to put into it as far as like materials and things that I need to use. But I am like creative in that way. Like I've done paper mache. So like I'm kind of trying to use things that I know I've done before and just start there and then like build it up and maybe like, you know, advance my skills and like other stuff. But right now I'm like thinking about using like paper mache as a start to start building the mask. And I don't know, I can't wait to get started on it. I do plan to do it like sometime soon. So yeah.
I feel like that'd be a really cool show, like to have your 2D works, masks, as well as like the 3D. Yeah, that was another question that I had is like, what you do have a lot of mask imagery and like clown funhouse type imagery in your work. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, because I find it to be so like this interesting tension in your work between like the very kind of like flowy spiritualness of it that's also colorful, but then there's a little bit that's like slightly sinister almost to me, which I find to be really interesting.
I think it's just like this idea of light versus dark and how I'm just trying to build a bridge between the two. I focus a lot on like I said, like these repressed fears that we kind of have in our subconscious, we hold in the subconscious space. And so that subconscious space can be dark and scary. And I wanted to, you know, represent that, and this idea of every human having that shadow self, which is a part of us that holds the insecurities and the fears from trauma or any type of painful experience that we, you know, went through. And it's hard being in that space because sometimes you're not conscious that it's happening, but it's almost like you're acting out, like it starts to act out through the ego. So like my whole idea with the mask is kind of like it represents that facade that we walk with every day, and we're almost like conditioned to believe that's who we really are. And society plays into that as well. And you know, it's not just your environment, it's also everything we watch and the medias and things of that such that kind of builds that up as well. So the mask is kind of representing that. And like, I don't know, when I think about clowns, I just think about how like weird and odd they are, and how like they kind of have these exaggerated like faces on to entertain others and make others feel like, you know, they're supposed to be funny and supposed to like uplift the energy, but it's actually really kind of like when they take the makeup off, it's like, who are they really? Like, is this just something that they felt like they had to do to entertain others and to you know, I don't know, it's kind of sad. Like, I don't know, I just kind of think of as them as sad. So I think I just kind of put it all like together and use it symbolically in my work. And I just kept finding myself making exaggerated smiles, and I just feel like that just represents that ego of and that soul that's kind of left to just, I don't know, just still wandering. I don't know. It's just really deep stuff, and it all kind of just goes back into like the layers that we have as in the human physique. So yeah, I just think really deep about stuff.
I love it. And I think one of the reasons why I've really been attracted to your work is I studied Chinese contemporary art. That's kind of what I did in my master's.
Yeah.
And so I lived in China for a while, and one of my favorite Chinese contemporary artists, his name is Zheng Fangzhi, and he has a mask series. And it's very much like totally different style than yours, but very exaggerated, and is a comment on, you know, communism and like the repressed self in communism.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, one of his pieces sold for like $35 million.
Wow.
On auctions. Yeah. So
that's amazing. I don't know. I listen. I don't know. I feel like I might know the artist that you're talking about, because I'm thinking of like these masks that I saw. They had like strong emotions, and they were kind of big.
Yeah, they're big. And the one that sold for that amount was, it's basically a parody off of The Last Supper. So it's like all the disciples there, and they're all wearing masks. And they're all wearing red ties except for one, who is Judas, and that's a yellow tie. And the yellow tie is supposed to symbolize like capitalism. And the red tie is communism. Yeah, you should definitely. I'll send the artist to you. He's
I feel like I know, but that would be great if you could send him to me, because I would love to check that out. Because like I said, like I'm kind of like exploring the idea right now, and I'm still trying to like put it all together. But it's like, as an artist, it's so crazy, because it's like intuitively you know what you're trying to do, but putting the words together is like still kind of like hard to do.
Sure.
So,
and, you know, figuring out your style, and it obviously like constantly evolves.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my last question about your work is, you know, how would you say like the use of this specifically Black body has evolved in your work?
I honestly, I feel like for a while, like when I started doing the portraiture, I wasn't really thinking about, I think I was more focused on just the skill side of things. Now I use like the figures and I paint them in black, like straight black. And I really wanted to represent more of that divinity kind of like I don't know, like my thoughts are always going to spirituality. And like I said, like I think Black people, like we are like, I look at us as like the chosen ones, like the ones that were here first, and kind of like the most connected to the divine, because we are like kind of like the ones that like almost built like his creation. Like, and when I say his, I mean God. So I'm very like thinking in that terms. And so when I think of Black bodies, yes, that representation is you know, important to have in these institutionalized areas where I know like Kerry James Marshall, like he would use like that over like that Black skin, and it was, you know, he wanted to like put that representation in the museum of Black people. But I'm more so thinking of it as like a more magical thing, like a just more magic, spiritual, like our skin is made of history. Our skin is made of like, you know, Mother Nature, like, you know, we are connected to Earth. And so I just kind of was thinking like in terms of that connection to the universe and to the divine. And so that's what I think when I see Black skin. So yeah.
I'm like even more obsessed with your work now after talking. I'm really attracted to it, really. Like I'm just like, oh, I could totally see this being in my house, because I love like colorful, more expressionist type stuff.
Yeah.
Talking with you about like all of the deep, you know, influences in your work is just so cool. Like, so
thanks.
So
I just really hope, like, not to cut you off, but I was just saying, I just really hope that my work does like continue to translate emotional healing to others, because that's really what I'm trying to do, and trying to get people to kind of think about. And so that's why I also think it's important that I just utilize like the journey that I'm on right now and transfer everything that I'm learning onto the canvas as I go. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's so cool. So how can people get in touch with you, or like you have your website, Instagram?
Yeah. I am on Instagram, Twitter, and I do have a website. It's LaShaeJBoydArt.com. And my Instagram is LaShaeJ.B. So yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram, and my Twitter is LaShaeJB. So I do, share a lot of like just different updates on my social platforms about things that I put on my website and like new work and stuff like that, and exhibitions. So yeah, I try to like make sure people know that my website is there for all the updates and stuff. And yeah. So.
Awesome. I know like at Wild Goose, we're super excited to collaborate with you again. I know you did Wild Art Columbus this year, and then you did the other show last year, and hopefully we can do something again this year or next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can have a solo show. If not this year, definitely in the beginning of next year, depending on how things look. So
have your mask. Maybe you could have your 3D masks.
Yeah, I do plan to have masks at my next show for sure. I definitely want to aim for that. So that's kind of been like my goal. Like, okay, like next show I need to do the mask. So I got to get started on this at some point. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. It was so nice. I think like the way that we can connect virtually is really important. And I just want to give a thank you to the Reese brothers for providing this platform, and also Nicolettecinemagraphics for all the behind the scenes work. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Thank you.